All right, so this is our video on to get you started on our Pedigrees practice worksheet. So this is a Google slide. You should be able to find it there in Classroom. And so I'm going to help you out with the first one, and then you can keep going. Okay? All right, so it says here, in humans, albinism is a recessive trait. Okay? The disorder causes a lack of pigment in the skin and hair, making an albino appear very pale with white hair and pale blue eyes. This disorder can also occur in animals. A common albino found in a laboratory is the white rat. The pedigrees below trace inheritance of the allele that causes albinism. Okay, and so remember, it says it's a recessive trait. Okay, and so when we say recessive, that means when we have the little a, that's when we see the trait albinism. And the rest of us is normal. So this would be, remember we talked about carriers. So this would be a carrier for the gene because it has the albino gene, but it doesn't appear albino. Okay, and so you will fill in those, and then it says fill out the blanks on the pedigree. So you will come over here. Remember, our circles are girls, are females. Okay, we'll say females, and this one is males. Okay, and so the filled in ones, remember, are affected individuals. So this would be an affected male, so it gets a genotype of AA, and you can just type that right into the box there on your Google slide. And this would be an affected female AA. Then we have to start looking at the parents and the children. So when we start looking at that, you can see here's our original couple. Okay, they were married. They had 3 kids, 1, 2, 3 here. And so, but they had one affected individual and then 2 unaffected. So that means they each, remember from the law of segregation, that means that they each have to have that albino gene to be able to get an affected individual. And so to get a little a, each parent has to have one. Okay, and so without each of them having one of those genes, you can't have an affected individual. Okay, so each of them have to have that, but notice that neither of them look affected. So they also must have that dominant gene in there. Okay, and so we have 2 heterozygotes because that's the only way to be able to get a homozygote recessive here. Okay, now this oldest female here, remember, we go oldest from left to right. The oldest female, we're not sure what kind of genotype she has. We know she's not affected. She could be a heterozygote or she could be a homozygote dominant because she could have got both dominant genes from the parents. But because she doesn't have any children, we can't really determine what her genotype is. So you put a question mark there. Okay, then we can look at the youngest female who did get married and had a child. Well, they had an affected individual. For them to have an affected individual, they both must be heterozygote. For them to have an infected child and also not appear albino. Okay. And then you fill out, so once you fill out the genotypes, and a question mark is filling it out, by the way. How many children does a couple have? Well, remember this line connects from the marriage line down to show children. So 1, 2, 3. What is the sex of the oldest child? Is a female. And how many grandchildren does this original couple have? And they have 1. Okay. And so the next question is also, again, going to talk about albinism. And you're going to talk about a different family, and you are going to have to label them with their different genotypes. And in the bottom it says create an extension to the pedigree. So you're going to do that, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. But create an extension to the pedigree to show the albino granddaughter marrying and having a son who is not an albino. So it would be here, okay? And so that would be show the albino granddaughter. So this is the albino granddaughter, and you're going to show that she is married, right? Okay. And that she had children, okay? And then you will add those having a son who is not albino. So I'll have you add that in, and I'll show you at the end of this video how to do that on Google Slides, okay? All right, so let's look at the next page. So the next page is going to talk about actually 3 different types of diseases, and it'll give you the genotypes here. You're going to define them again. These are all recessive again, okay? So remember, in our heterozygote, those are our carriers. You have the gene for the disease, but you don't see it. And you're going to do all of these. You're going to fill out their genotypes based on what they gave you here for Tay-Sachs disease. Here you're going to study cystic fibrosis, okay? And remember, in some of these, they're going to have you add to the chart, and I'll show you in a minute. And it says add to the chart to show the youngest male in the 3rd generation. So 1, 2, 3, the youngest male in the 3rd generation, marrying and having a child with cystic fibrosis. So this is the youngest male in the 3rd generation, did get married, but you need to add a child with, and it'll probably be one out here, a child with cystic fibrosis, okay? And then the 5th one doesn't have you adding anything to it, but it has you labeling the genes, okay, or the genetics, the genotypes, okay? All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to switch back to the computer. I'm going to show you how to do these on Google Slides. All right, so here's your Google Slides form if you're working on this. So if you're not able to do it on paper, I wanted to go ahead and show you how to add the lines and the circles there on your slide. So on the bottom it says create an extension to the pedigree to show the albino granddaughter marrying and having a son that is not albino. So here's our albino granddaughter. And so to be able to add the line, you have this choice right up here. So you're going to click this line, okay? And then you're going to click it here at the side of the circle, and you're just going to drag it out. I don't really care if it's straight or not, okay? So you're going to make a marriage line. And if you want to make it thicker, you can choose right here. So you can do 1, or you can do, if you want it a little thicker, if you like it a little thicker, you can also do a 2 or 3, okay? And so then you're going to make your line, and then you're going to make your square for her husband. So you go to this little, it looks like circles and squares, go to shapes, choose the square, and you're going to go ahead and add the square in here, okay? All right, and it may be a little off. I'm going to go ahead and move mine up, okay? And it doesn't say that this is a affected individual, so you want to make sure it's not filled in. So you go to the little paint can here, and you're going to say transparent, okay? And you can make the lines a little bit thicker. I'm going to give it a 2-point kind of line to show it a little thicker. So there's your square for her husband. Then you're going to go back and you're going to make another line for her child. It said marrying and having a son who is not albino. So we'll make a line down, okay? And then you can go ahead and add the son and make sure that it's not albino. So that's how you kind of add in. You can use the lines and the shapes here to add to your pedigree, okay? And so you're going to use that not only on the first slide, but you'll also use it on the second one on the second slide, okay? If you guys have any questions, please let me know.